What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Pod Scum. I am your host, your bastard of ceremonies, the number one hairbag, Rex Ruger. That's Rex with 3 X's, and you have found Pod Scum, the podcast where we dive into the deepest, darkest, murkiest waters with a plethora of legendary guests. And speaking of legends, who better than to talk to the coolest guest, but the hottest host? That's right. Take one look at yours truly, Rex Ruger. Better yet, let me take one look at yours truly, Rex Ruger, a.k.a. the man with the golden voice and the velvet tongue, a.k.a. the king of sleaze, a.k.a. the hair metal high priest, and most importantly, a.k.a. Diamond David Lee Roth Jr. That's right. Take one look, folks. Search your heart, as Yoda would say. You know it to be true that I am the son of glam, the front man for the band. Just smoked several grams. Got a million fans. Mr. Wop Bop Loo Bop Wop Bam Bam. Shazam. Hot damn. Woo! Of course, I am the hardest working man in show business, bringing you this podcast as well as fronting numerous glam and sleaze metal bands up and down the eastern seaboard with my focus on one in particular, and that is Love Sword. And if you want to play behind the second greatest front man, sorry, Dad, to ever do it, hit me in the comments section and you could be a part of Love Sword. I'm writing the album right now, folks. Updates soon to come. Of course, this is the No Frills podcast because I'm 49 years old, but I don't have time to add frills. You don't get frills because I give you plenty of thrills. So you see it all, warts and all, as I invite my guests and we get on here and we talk some shiznit. And I'm excited about today's guest. I am excited about all the guests. As always, I'm coming to you from the Pink Pussycat Lounge, the Den of Sin, as you can see. All my memorabilia, stage clothes, props, theatrics, because I am a front man. And while we wait for our guest to get in here, and we got ourselves a good one, I will once again encourage anybody interested in being part of Love Sword. Do not hesitate. If you think you are that virtuoso and you can hang with the greatest to ever do it, hit me up by all means. I am looking for players. Let me get myself looking good here. Woo! And of course, if you too want the locks that rock, get you some, baby. Aquanet. Remember to spray responsibly. And of course, another legendary guest. So here we go with Pod Scum. Let's get him in here. Let's get him in here. Let's get him in here. All right. Hey, how you doing, big guy?
What's up, homie? How you doing, man?
Good, good. It's very good to have you on here, man. Welcome.
Dude, thanks for having me, bro. I appreciate it.
Miggy Sanchez from the band Relent. Also ILL NINO, correct?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
You still with those guys?
Still with them full time. Yes, sir.
Okay. So listen, man, I've been doing a lot of, I want to jump right in here, man. I've been listening to a lot of this new album, Heavy, and it certainly lives up to the name, man. It is a heavy, heavy album, man. I mean, relentless, man. But some of the things I want to ask you about, though, I wanted your opinion on where you stand on the whole Christian metal label or Christian band label in terms of, like, you know, how you think you're received as far as, like, you know, attaining commercial success. Do you think sometimes that whole tag sometimes can almost turn kids off?
Yeah, I think so. But only because it's one of those things, like a lot of things, has been misrepresented.
Right.
And I think I know us personally with Relent, we run into that a lot.
Yeah.
Where immediately we're kind of shut down from the get-go because people already assume things about us, or, you know,
right,
before they ever give us a shot. So yeah, I think that the tag, you know, in my opinion, God is not identifying any of us with any type of title other than Christ follower. You know what I'm saying? So
exactly.
Us having the Christian metal tag really doesn't bother me at all.
It's kind of
having it or not having it.
It's so what is the creative process like when you guys get together? Are all the band's influences all the same as far as like where you stand from your faith? You're coming from your faith. All the band is on the same page. So when the creative process, when you guys get together, and create music, how does that usually go? Do you come in with stuff already prepared? Is it a collaborative thing? How do you guys operate?
Yeah, so for the everyone in the band is on the same page as far as faith goes. As pertains to writing, I'm the main writer for the band. So the majority of it comes from me. I do have a couple of guys, our producers that we've worked with on this last album, Richie and Robbie. Who Richie actually plays drums for a band called Fire from the Gods.
I just had AJ on last week.
There you go. So
yeah.
Richie's a part of my writing team as well, him and Robbie, and so whenever it's time to write, we really we're the ones kind of forking it out.
So what was your catch us up to speed just briefly on like your story and like what brought you to to making this kind of music? What was your revelation, so to speak, that brought you to Christianity and feeling like you needed to portray it in your music?
Yeah, no, for sure, man. And I grew up. I wasn't a church kid at all. Didn't grow up in it at all. I didn't know nothing about it,
Right.
So when I came to Christ, man, it was a real deal. I was a hoodlum off the street, bum musician, broke, poor, addicted.
Yeah.
To multiple things, man. And so I knew nothing about what it took or so when it happened pretty quick. 2013 is when it happened, man. I was on tour with another band that I was in at the time, and it was a secular band, and I just had this encounter with Christ on a beach in Jacksonville, Florida, believe it or not. And it changed my life, man. It changed my life to the point where I gave up music completely at that time and was just kind of doing the Jesus thing, and then ultimately felt a call in my heart to kind of start Relent. And Relent was really just an expressive thing for me to express kind of the change that happened in my life. That's kind of how it started. But it turned into its own thing. But it's just crazy, yeah. So that's how everything was birthed through that encounter, and we've been rolling with it since.
When you say that you quit music for a while, was there a specific reason why you quit music? Did you feel like there was no way to make music and and be in the rock and roll world, so to speak, and be able to walk that path and create music?
It was more of a God thing, honestly. As soon as I came into my encounter with Christ, I knew I had to give it up. But the thing with Jesus is, it's like I was so content with Him that I didn't care.
Right. Right.
And so it's like nothing fazed me, nothing bothered me. Like all I wanted was Him, And so it was kind of one of those things that, it was a God thing. But on another perspective, it's also one of those things that I realized at the time I needed to shift my focus. And I'm like hell bent when I have a vision, when I want to do something, I go for it.
Right.
I'm like the most stubborn musician in the world.
Yeah.
That's what made this encounter for me so real, because it was just like I knew that I had to let it go, and I did. But it was all for healthy reasons, man. You got to let it go, and I'm just so grateful that it came back to me in this shape and form. So.
Well, now you had mentioned that you had and you kind of glossed over it, a lot of pitfalls and trials and tribulations in your past or whatever. But was there that one kind of pivotal moment? And I don't know if you were willing to share that or not, but was there that one impactful moment that really, really, really put you on the straight and narrow? Was it one thing, or was it a collection of a lot of things?
It was a cluster of a lot of things. Like I said, I was the band I was in at the time was doing really well, getting ready to blow up, and man, we were just doing so well. I thought I had everything that I wanted. I had a great band. I had two beautiful kids at home.
Yep.
I had me and my wife now, but at the time we were separated. My life at home was really bad. So there was a lot of things that were just kind of out of whack.
Right.
So
right.
Ultimately, I kind of hit rock bottom with all of them, and I just had this moment where basically I gave up, and I was like, I can't do this anymore because it's no longer filling me. I thought
right.
this music thing was going to do that, and so that's when I had that encounter, and so that's how that happened.
Now you guys are a combination of obviously the music is very heavy, but certainly you sing, but sometimes also orate the lyrics in the cadence where you could call it a fusion of metal and hip hop, so to speak. And I'm sure you've heard that plenty of times. When you first got into music, looking back when you got into music, do you remember which one hit you first and that you got bit by the bug? Was it metal or was it hip hop?
It was a little bit of both, man. My dad's a metalhead. He's a rocker. He's played his whole life. He's a musician. He's toured. He's done the whole gig. So he was a big influence on me. But honestly, I want to say my earliest memories of getting like sucked into music was like hip hop and R&B. Yeah. And I mean, I wanted to sing for Boyz II Men before I wanted to sing for RELENT. I'll tell you that. I was adapted to that music, man. It drew me in. I loved it. I mimicked it as much as I could. So that was the beginning stages of my musical journey. It was definitely hip hop and R&B.
When you say you mimic these artists, who was that guy or that band or whatever that was the first one that really, really, really inspired you, or that you were really flying the flag for and saying, this is my band, or this is the guy that or girl.
In regards to metal, you mean?
Just in music in general, who was the first one at that young age that you were looking at and really, blown away by?
My father, honestly, man, I had the privilege of not just seeing him play live. Like, I was with him behind the scenes, like at all the practices, and I was just that kid. I'm the only son. I'm the firstborn son. So
yeah.
Growing up, me and my dad were super close. He was my hero. And so he was someone I was always impressed by. I wanted to be like him. I wanted to be better than him, honestly. But I knew I had to start there. And so my dad really kind of kicked it off for me as far as, that type of influence.
So when you've, what about the first bands that really got you into heavy metal?
Man, shoot, there's so many.
Because you guys have a very eclectic and unique sound, but it has been attempted by other bands, some successfully, some not so successfully, depending on how you want to look at it. Obviously, you can certainly hear elements of what POD does, or a band like Downset, or bands like that. Certainly reminiscent of that kind of sound.
If we're talking about, like, I guess what creatively kind of stirred me to want to start mimicking music in such a way. I grew up in the 90s, so man, to me, I feel in regards to metal, some of the best metal came out in the 90s, early 2000s. And
sure.
So I was around that. So bands like POD are a huge influence. I love Sonny. I love his vocals. He's brown like me, and which is a bonus. And so let's see who else. Korn obviously was huge in the 90s growing up. Even El Nino, like when I first discovered El Nino, that was one of my all-time favorite bands. So to be able to be in it's such an honor. Man, there's so many guys Seven Dust is another huge band that I really discovered early in the 90s, and it kind of like rocked my world. So yeah, I mean, there's a few there.
When you guys play live, and I asked this question to a lot of musicians that I have on here. Well, if I were somebody that, and I haven't seen you guys live other than just clips on YouTube, but if I'm somebody that's coming to to a RELENT show, or you're trying to convince me to come and see you guys live, what would you hang your head on? What would you say is you guys' calling card? You know what I mean? Like, you guys, if you come to see RELENT live, this is what you guys deliver.
I think violent passion. That's those are two words that came to my head, and this is where I'm very passionate about what I do. Very passionate about music, and the best way to express it for me outside of being in the studio is playing live, And so there's just something that it does, and so I think when you come to a RELENT show, just know, we're violently passionate about what we do.
Now, obviously, it's a crazy time right now in the music business right now. Very difficult for a lot of acts, to achieve commercial success. Record business, I think everybody would agree, is not what it used to be. You guys just getting this band off the ground. what direction do you go in? Because there's so many different avenues. I talk to musicians on here all the time about, releasing singles, going the EP route, the full length album route. Like, where do you guys see you going in what direction? Like, obviously, Heavy is a full length album. Do you guys see yourselves continuing in that same vein, or are you going to make shifts depending on how the market shifts?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. The market seems to be shifting almost every other week. It's like,
yeah, you're not kidding.
It is crazy, man. So at the time of the release of Heavy, that was the best route to do. People wanted, they heard our first EP and wanted more, so we gave a full album. Now moving forward, I mean, it is. We're scheduled to record an EP here in November. So I'm assuming we're gonna do that for now, and just release singles probably until all of it's done. But again, it's just so hard to tell. Everything literally changes. It feels like every other week. So
is it
we'll
hard?
See what happens.
Is it hard sometimes when you're a new band? Because a lot of guys I have on here, if I'm doing my homework or making some notes, on stuff I want to talk to them about or whatever, I'll go to a lot of bands, their page or their Wikipedia page, and you'll see, a laundry list of past members. Guys in and out of the band or whatever. Obviously, you hear guys in bands say all the time, "Oh, it's like a big, dysfunctional family." It's hard for any group of people to get along and cohabitate, and work cohesively together. You feel like going forward that you've got a solid lineup and you've got everybody kind of rowing in the same direction, so to speak, or because it is very difficult right now, as we said, with how frustrating and daunting the music business is right now, to keep everybody kind of locked in and motivated. Do you feel like everybody's kind of really pulling in the same direction?
It's really weird to say. So we're kind of in that transition season. We just lost our two guitar players that started Relent with me.
Okay.
And it's all on good terms. It's just that they, family life things catch up, and they have to make a decision. And so, they made a decision to choose that. And that's totally cool. I'm for it. That's why I think a lot of the pressure of writing and making sure the creativity stuff comes from me helps with those decisions, because I'm not relying on someone else's talent to make sure Relent is running, Right. And so it's a lot easier nowadays. You see this a lot. I do have a core group that I have now. I have 3 people that are like hardcore, ready to go at it with me. That's my drummer Jackson and our lead guitarist, Brandon. Okay. And we're kind of the core, the heartbeat of everything that's moving as far as live and everything concerning Relent. And so, yeah, I think us 3, we're definitely on the same page. We have a bond that is tight. We've been together outside of music. We've known each other for a long time, and so there's a bond already there. Yeah. And we've been a band long enough to know that it's not all rainbows and daisies. Right. So and so we expect that. So that when it comes, we don't act completely surprised. It's part of the game, man. And so sure. We're ready to hit it.
So obviously, being in the entertainment industry, it affords you, a pretty large platform and the ability to get onto a stage and have people's attention and have people's ear, even for just, a couple of hours for a concert or whatever, or platforms like this when you're getting on and having an interview or whatever. With there being so much, and I want to choose my words carefully here, with so many issues plaguing, the youth of today, and there just being, so many problems that are prevalent in today's society, where we're seeing kids younger and younger, committing suicide, depression, school shootings, all that kind of stuff that's going unchecked in our country right now. And I know you've been pretty candid in the past about discussing, your own journey through some of those same pitfalls. How can you use a band, like yours effectively to reach those kind of people? Because I know other bands have tried, and I'm certainly you want to affect some kind of a change in people, through your music, the way that, that you were able to find that change for yourself. How do you do that?
You got to be careful. I think, especially people with platforms, you see this a lot in the celebrity world in Hollywood. Yeah, they feel that they always have to have an answer,
Right.
And usually that leads them into saying something really, really stupid.
Right.
And so, and again, I'm not hating on, I'm just saying I've learned that sometimes to not have an answer is okay too. I'm not going to have an answer to everything,
Right.
But the things I do have an answer to, I answer gracefully. I answer with patience. I answer with understanding that not everybody has seen or dealt what I've dealt with. I understand that I haven't dealt with things that other people have encountered, and so it's like, I think looking at it from that perspective really puts you in a position to win, because it's like, hey, I understand that you understand that I don't really fully understand where what you're feeling right now, but just know that I'm here for you. You're not alone. Things like that I feel can go so much further than me having some political opinion, or an answer to every problem, because I don't. I wish I did, but I don't.
Do you find yourself at shows or after shows or whatever? Do you find yourself ever being approached by any kids, to try to use you as a sounding board, or try to try to glean some wisdom off you because they know of the things that you've been through?
Oh, all the time, and that's something Relent really takes pride in. Is that
it's a big responsibility, though.
It is, man. That's what I said. That's why I'm very careful with words, man. And and if there's something I don't know, I let them know. It's like, man, honestly, I've never really had to answer that. I'm not just gonna throw something out there, because words have meaning, words have weight, words have power. Therefore, I'm careful, very careful with them. But I love the fact that people look up to us in a way that they feel they can ask us for advice and come to us like that. I think it's dope, So yeah, I love it.
Well, obviously, religion, and just the topic of religion, sometimes, it's no secret. It's been doing it for thousands of years, that it can divide people also too, and be a very polarizing topic. So, and especially in today's day and age, where like I said earlier, you really have to choose your words carefully. Because everybody's waiting, with their phone on record, waiting to catch you saying or doing the wrong thing or whatever. So, it is a big responsibility. But where do you think that the state of Christian music, and I'm not talking about the type of Christian music that we hear on, that certainly has an audience, but you're reaching kind of a different audience than those people that turn on, like K-Love and stuff like that, where that's more contemporary Christian music. You're kind of attacking it from, still the extreme music. But do you find that the expectation is very high, where you say, admitting to not having the answer to stuff, though? Do you find sometimes, though, that people are looking to you too much, to have that answer, because you're making that claim of being, a Christian band?
I think they don't do it just with me. I think they do it with a lot of things. I think we do it with politics. We do it with religion. We do it with we do it with sports. So it's like, I think naturally, people with platforms, again, are expected by the public to have an answer, and we don't, because we're normal people. For me, I'm just a normal dude. I have a normal life. I have a wife. I have kids. I'm walking through this thing too. I don't have all the answers.
But I agree with you.
But the answers I do have, I'm willing to share.
Right.
And so for me, what's cool about this whole Jesus thing is that, I absolutely know 150% that he is the answer, and that he has an answer because he created everything. Sure. Therefore, I point people in that direction. And so, and it's not like a juke at all. It's just one of those things that, I've learned. Again, I keep saying that I'm not always going to have the right answer, and that's okay. So,
where do you think the state of Christian extreme music is right now, and what bands out there are you seeing that are kind of rolling up their sleeves and fighting a good fight alongside you guys? I don't know of a lot, but I do remember going and seeing several years ago, and I thought it was kind of funny at the time, to hear those two terms pushed together, Christian death metal. But I did go see a band years ago called Impending Doom.
Yeah, they're amazing, man.
Extremely, extremely heavy. And I must admit, I had my doubts, because I thought, I don't know, you just hear death metal and Christianity, and you don't kind of associate the two. It's kind of a weird anomaly, kind of annexing those two words together. Yeah. But where do you think the state of that extreme music is, though? Sleeping Giants, another one that comes to mind. But obviously there are bands out there trying to do it. But are there enough of them?
I don't think there's enough of us not just in the Christian market, in the general market in general. And again, I hate that religious people kind of box us in. No, you're supposed to be in the Christian market, and that says like, what? Who says?
Right.
Like, who says that? You
Right.
know, because it's like it's just, you know, as a Christian, like most of our workplaces are secular. We don't all work at churches. Like we go to secular jobs. You know what I'm saying? So for me, being a musician, yeah, I am thinking about a certain topic or a certain, you know, perspective of my encounter with Jesus. And so yeah, that's one thing. But why does that have to be solidified, you know, in the box of Christianity? Like, why can't I take that anywhere else? So I think more of us need to be willing to step into those kind of awkward, you know, places that I guess we think we wouldn't fit in, but we actually do. You know, because you see a band, like if you would have known that Impending Doom before you went to go see them weren't a Christian band, someone just told you, hey, this band Impending Doom's playing, and you showed up and saw them, you'd be blown away by like, yo, this band's heavy as hell. This is dope.
Yeah, absolutely. I was Christian band or not Christian band, regardless of whether they're flying that flag or not. Just, you know, a fantastic band. You know, I mean, just
and those dudes are amazing. I love those guys. You know, I just love what they do, and I again, like one of the first questions you asked, I think that the title kind of restricts us a little bit, and it shouldn't. It's just the title, like it does nothing, you know. So.
Well, I remember being at that show, and I remember Brooke, the lead singer of Impending Doom. You know, he didn't shy away from using his platform, and he did it effectively, where he walked that line very well of getting some stuff off his chest that he felt like he needed to say to the audience, but without coming across very preachy, because obviously everybody that shows up there, you know, it was a bill where they were on with like Whitechapel and some other bands. So it wasn't a completely, you know, quote unquote Christian bill. You know, the whole show was not Christian bands, but, you know, so obviously when you get a crowd like that, you know, you get people that you're trying to spread a message to that obviously are doubters. So you must get those at your shows too. Kid comes up to you and he has his doubts just about, you know, organized religion or the existence of God in general. What happens when you get kids like that, and how do you tackle a big issue like that? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, that's a hard thing, like where somebody actually wants to say, you know, convince me, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely, and again,
why should I buy into this? You know, why should I buy into this?
Absolutely, and it's so cool is that, like I mentioned before, I didn't grow up in church, so I understand what it's like to have doubt, you know, and pertains to this specific topic, and so I can relate to them on that level. Now, it's one of those things that's not going to be fixed in one 10-minute conversation, you know.
Right.
I think naturally, it's one of those things that it's going to be multiple conversations. It's going to need relationship. It's going to need trust and stuff like that. But no, I mean, we play secular shows. Like, we rarely ever dip into the Christian market, because we're too edgy, I think.
Yeah.
That's what we've been told. So, and that's cool. It is what it is, man. But, we definitely have had people that come up and they're like, man, your music's great. Everything's great. I just really can't get myself to be convinced of the message yet. I said, that's cool. I'm not expecting you to have this overnight transformation, because at the end of the day, it's not for me to change you. That's God's job, and that's your willingness to want to put your life in His hands. Like, that's how good He is. He gives you that opportunity. He doesn't force it upon you. Yeah. He leaves it at your lap, and what you do with it is what you do with it. And so, you know, again, I'm not afraid of those conversations. I love them, and at the end of the day, if you don't agree with what I'm believing in you, I hate you. No, I'm just kidding. No, I love you. No, and I got mad love and respect for you. I'm not going to treat you any different. You know what I'm saying? And I hate that we've kind of had that little persona attached to us. It's like, oh, if you don't agree with them, then they hate you, and you know, and that's not how I do it. Like, that is not how I do it. So,
what do you think the perception is? Like, are you guys on a label right now?
Yeah, we're currently signed to Rock Test Records, distributed through Capitol Music. Yeah.
Well, first of all, congratulations on that, because it's not easy to get on a label and get label support nowadays. But like, are you approached? How does that work? Because I'm not in the music industry. Are you approached by the label, or do you have to like pitch your stuff to the label? And the second part to that question is, what's the perception, or if there is any, or is there any reluctance of labels, you know, reaching out and wanting to put a Christian band on their label? I'm assuming that they are a Christian label, or they're not a completely Christian label, are they?
The one we're signed to is currently a Christian
Is a
label.
Christian label, but I'm sure in the past though, have you you know, what's the perception like when you try to shop your music to labels? Are they wishy-washy about getting into any kind of a business transaction at all with Christian bands? Do you think there's a reluctance because it's kind of got that stigma like the kids aren't going to think it's fun, or the kids aren't going to dig it?
Yeah, no, here's the funny thing about that. I got to sit in a meeting with I'm not going to say where he's from because
okay.
he's just really high up in one of the biggest mainstream labels
okay.
that exists today.
Okay.
And what he said blew my freaking mind. And that's this. He says they have zero care whether you're Christian, Buddhist, gay, straight, Asian. What they see when they sign you is money.
Right.
They go where the money goes.
Right.
And that's all they care. So if there's money with you singing about Jesus and people are showing up to your shows and buying your album, guess what? They're signing you. You know what I'm saying? Like there's no money's not prejudice at all when it comes to these big companies. Man, they see money, they see dollar signs. That's what they need to function. Therefore, they gravitate to where the money is. So there's not really ever hey man, we think you're too this, you're too that. It's all ran by money, man, and they just want to go where the money goes. And so that's
has Relent gone and played live or done any live shows in Europe, in the European market?
No, our first Europe for Relent, our first Europe show is actually at the end of September. We'll be in Germany. We'll be in Germany. So.
Okay, so now the other part of that question is, and I wasn't asking that because I'm in Europe, but my question really is though, when you go to another country like that, and obviously then you're starting to get into, when you start traveling the world, you start getting into people of a lot of different religions. How do you think the message will parlay, so to speak, when you go over to these other countries? Obviously, the music is going to stand for itself. Obviously the songs are powerful. The musical, the instrumentation is very powerful. But are you worried about pushback from like European fans at all in terms of like the message?
Not at all, man. We actually have a great fan base in Europe.
Okay.
Now, actually, I was on tour with El Nino this last a couple months ago. This last run we did in Europe, and we were in London specifically. And I remember showing up to the London show. It was a sold-out show, and I was mind blown how many Relent shirts I saw at the London gig, and I was like, "What?"
That's
it
awesome.
Was cool. Yeah, it's dope, man. It was really humbling. I was like, "Man, that's super cool." But no, I don't. I think the message we bring is universal. I think there's something for everybody in it, obviously. And so it's relatable. The fact that it's coming from someone like me who is not, I don't gain anything out of this. There's no financial gain for me. Like I'm not that guy, And so I think that helps in communicating it as well.
Well, I also think it's very important too that when guys like you or like Head from Korn, when you get guys like that who come out and speak out on behalf of Christianity, and they don't look like, let's say, like a traditional contemporary, like they don't have that clean cut look or whatever. And I mean no disrespect by it, but by that I think they're able to identify more by looking at, hey, here's this big guy singing for this band with these dreadlocks. He looks like me. He's got he doesn't look like a clean cut, Christian guy in a suit and tie or whatever. I think that helps if more rock stars actually would step out and have the kids like see. I think you make Christian music more relatable by not changing your image. I think some people would look at you and probably say, or like Brooke from Impending Doom or any of those guys and say, "Ha, come on, this guy can't be a Christian. Look at him." Like.
Yeah, definitely. And Head's a really good friend of mine. I love that dude to death. And it's definitely one of those things that it takes a layer off the onion to know that I can relate to this guy. He looks like me, talks like me, sounds like me. Right. Maybe this thing he's talking about. I'm gonna give this a shot. It definitely helps. So
now, what are you? what are your future plans for the band? And like, where do you start when you're just starting a band, like from scratch, and you just put out your first album? Is the focus on getting a lot of material out? Is the focus on, getting yourself onto a big tour or opening for a big band? Like, where is the focus nowadays in today's music business when you're starting out a band? Like, what is it? Is it getting a catalog? Is it getting out in front of a lot of audiences?
Yeah, I think audiences is the main goal. COVID kind of really screwed it up.
Yeah.
Because now for bands like us, where prior to COVID, I mean, when we started the band, we made it a thing to tour our butts off. Like, we toured. No one knew who we were, but we showed up to cities and we toured relentlessly, and it really helped our fan base. So we're big believers that you got to get out there and show your product. People have to find out about you. And so we definitely gained a lot through that. So I would say that touring is a huge part of being successful in this industry. The hard part about touring nowadays is that everyone and their mom's on tour because they didn't get to tour the last 2 years.
Right. Yeah, everyone's trying to make up for lost time. Right.
Yeah,
I know.
exactly. Well, yeah, and this is how we make our livelihood, and so it's work, and I get it. So no, but for any up and coming band, I would say get as much material as you can out, professional material. Don't rush anything. Make sure it looks good, sounds good, and be ready to tour your butts off.
Now, was this the sound that you had imagined, when you're kind of conjuring up like the, a template for what you want the sound of Relent to be? Like, did it all, or did it just kind of come out when you guys got together and jammed, or did you already have a thing in mind? Like, I want there to be elements of hip hop and metal in there.
Yeah, I already had kind of like a vision for it. Again, I love hip hop. I love rap. I respect the art so much.
Yeah.
And I'm a metalhead at the same time. And so it's one of those things like, man, it's been done before. Nothing we're doing is new.
Right.
But I still wanted to bring an aspect to it that in a way hasn't been done before.
Right.
And then that all stems from just, being original and being me. But no, definitely I did have a vision for it, and I wanted to combine both genres, and man, I still want to get bigger with that, make it bigger as a part of Relent.
And where do you stand on Christian hip hop artists? Obviously, there's a handful of them out there too. First of all, do you think when you look at like Trip Lee or Flame or Tadashi or some of these guys that are Christian hip hop artists, do you think that that genre is a harder sell than coming at the kids from like the rock and metal? Because obviously hip hop, and I don't want to put hip hop in a box, but it does conjure up, and sometimes it's the genre's own fault, but it gets a little derivative with like a lot of the, the misogynistic stuff and the, in the accentuation, put on material things and how much money and jewelry and stuff like that. Do you think it's harder kind of attacking the kids, so to speak, through Christian hip hop than it is through Christian rock?
I think they both have their equal battles. I don't know if there's much of a difference in pertaining to, at the end of the day, we're reaching people,
Right.
And so they have its challenges. Metalheads can be super stubborn. I mean, we've
yeah,
I have metalheads that are like Slayer only. They're cool. As soon as you put on a Metallica album, they're like, this sucks. I don't want to use this. Like, okay, guy, like, calm down. And so, I do have a lot of friends in the hip hop game, and I see some of their struggles. And yeah, it really is one of those things that hip hop has been painted to be this fashion statement first and talent last type of thing.
Right.
And so they definitely have their troubles. But no, I think we both hit kind of the same wall when it comes to reaching people.
Now, you said you've done shows, secular shows, with non-Christian bands, but is there a line that you as the founder of Relent would draw in terms of being on a bill with any bands that were, you'd mentioned Slayer, any bands that were too over the top with stuff that you just couldn't get on board with? You know what I mean? Like a death metal band or a heavy metal band that maybe just had, you know, too much evil imagery or you know, a dark message in their music. I mean, yeah, you know, could you put yourself on a bill? Let's say with somebody like I guess the most extreme would be like a band like Deicide, complete fucking Satanist, and I don't see why you'd be on a bill with that. But, yeah, but even somebody like a Slayer, you know what I mean, talking about war and you know, a lot of evil kind of stuff. You know, would that sit well with you?
Yeah, it doesn't bother me at all. Like, honestly, I think it's, again, I don't know. I see why people get offended, and you know, it is what it is. But it's like, as it pertains to my message, like, these are the people I want to reach. You know, so it's like, why wouldn't I?
Right.
And then outside of you know, the message part, I'm a musician and I love music. I love listening to Deicide. I love their music. I grew up with my dad. My dad loves Slayer, so I grew up on Slayer. I love listening to the music. You know what I'm saying? I don't have an issue when it comes to that. Again, at the end of the day, these guys have, you know, they do what they do, and that's on them. I can't stop that. Why I should let that affect me in a way that it makes me unhappy or I become angry? That just flies over my head. I don't understand why people get to that point. But nah, man, there's really no limit. Like, we will literally play with anybody, any genre, wherever you want us, we're there.
I love what you said though, man, about like you know, about projecting your you know, your message onto, like, I just, it makes me laugh in my head though, like thinking of you trying to reach like a Deicide audience. That's hilarious. But you're right though, in the sense that you say, like, those are the people that I want to reach, because they're obviously, you know, you look at them as people that are, you know, are lacking you know, somebody putting them in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. It's happened before. I remember playing, I think it was in Oklahoma, we were playing on this one tour, and one of the local opening bands would mimic kind of like what Deicide does. They had the painted face. I forget the name of the band, but they knew what we were about, what we represented. Yeah. And one of their songs was this next song is called "Jesus is a Fag," and like they started the song, and like it like. I think they looked over to see if I was going to kind of give it any attention.
The reaction, right?
No, I was waiting for them to start the song. Like, start the song. Like, let me hear it.
Yeah.
And what was cool is we had an amazing conversation with those dudes after the show, and they were completely like genuine guys. They were like, man, we're just living a gimmick. You know, I was like, cool. Like, it doesn't bother me. You know what I'm saying? It really doesn't bother me. So I love it.
Well, at least it was a gimmick, so you didn't have to actually convert those guys. You know what I mean? But I think you could have.
But, you know, for the most part, it was a gimmick. There was a couple guys that were pretty, like, about it. And it is what it is, man. And so we had a great conversation. And, so.
I want to ask you about your future plans here a minute. But first, man, because I'm having such a good time talking to you, man, I want to put you through what I do on my show. And I don't want you to think this is as an evil thing, because I'm not throwing you into the fires of hell per se, but I do want to throw you into the pod scum furnace. So these are just comparison questions, and you're just going to answer them as fast as you can, okay?
Okay.
Nas or DMX?
Ooh, Nas.
Ryan Gosling or Ryan Reynolds?
Oh, Reynolds.
These are important questions, by the way. We're solving the world's problems here, Miggy.
Absolutely.
The Stones or the Beatles?
Ooh, Beatles.
SpongeBob or Squidward?
SpongeBob.
Who's the real bully in the Karate Kid, Johnny or Daniel?
I'm gonna say Daniel, because he got into he bit off more than he could chew. I'll say that.
You can't swoop into town and just grab up dude's girl like that.
You can't do that.
You know, you're out of bounds. All right, what would scare you more, clowns or snakes?
Snakes. Ugh.
Really? Okay, and here's the most important one, man. Roth or Hagar?
Ooh, that's a hard one. No, that's not a hard one. That's David Lee Roth all day.
All right, I'm glad you said that, man, because I happen to be the son of David Lee Roth. So I'm going by. You can't tell by the hair. I mean, come on, Miggy, take one look.
There you go.
All right, so I want to ask you about your and of course I'm the one with the key to the right answers here, and I think I'd have to agree with all yours, Miggy. You might be the first guy in here that scored 100.
There you go. Let's get it. Ding, ding, ding,
Wait a minute,
ding.
I forgot what you said about Nas and DMX. How'd you answer that one?
Nas all day.
Okay, good. You got that one right then, man. Okay, I wanted to make sure.
He's actually one of my favorites.
So what's the plan going forward for Relent? Will you keep on going in this same direction and still punching out full length albums? And when will we see another Relent album? Obviously, you've just put one out. Is this going to be like long between albums, or are you looking to get right back in there and hit us with another one?
No, we're looking to punch one out here pretty soon. We got some dates locked in for studio work in November. So we'll be working from the beginning of November all the way through Thanksgiving in the studio for almost a month. And shortly after that, and we're hoping by January, February of 2023, we should have our next album out. So,
is the fear with being a new band? I've talked about this with other musicians. Is the fear with being a new band because of technology and because it seems like the average person in the world's attention span has kind of really started to really dwindle down to like the size of a fucking pea? Pardon my language. Where people don't sit down and really experience a full length album. Is there a lot of pressure, because I've talked to bands that are really under the impression that this whole, you can get out singles and keep putting stuff out constantly is to keep yourself relevant and keep your name on people's lips. Is there a pressure now, post-COVID and with technology just taking off and, people streaming music all over the place and using their phone as a stereo and having music on them all the time and exploring, new artists and everything, and the market's so saturated and everybody kind of chasing with the same nickel, so to speak? Is there a pressure really just to keep on staying productive and staying in people's minds?
There's a lot, because at the end of the day, you're not just dealing with music. Now you're dealing with, social media alone is its own giant that you kind of have to filter through. People aren't just listening to music, they're watching videos and this and that. And so, there's a little bit of a pressure, but again, you kind of know what you sign up for. And, for me, I love the pressure. I think it draws the best out of what I do, what we do here in Relent. So I'm all about it.
You're all about it. Okay. All right. That's good. So you want to be super productive then? You guys
Absolutely.
are looking to, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think that's, like you said, the attention span is just getting shorter and shorter and shorter. So it's like heavy's only going to be remembered for so long. They want to know what's next, So
Right. Yeah. You're right. You're right. So what if you could play? If you could put your promoter hat on, who would you love to go out on tour with? If you could have like a dream bill with somebody, like another band or two, who do you see like Relent being like a great fit, like where you just think like, wow, this would be a great bill, a great tour package?
Let's do Seven Dust, POD, and Relent.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Oh man, that was damage, bro.
We got to make that happen. We got to make that happen, Miggy. Who do we call? Who do we call to make that happen?
It's not the Ghostbusters, I'll tell you that.
No, you're right about that. You're right about that, man. Well, listen, man, I'm falling in love with this album a little bit more every day. I love the message, man. I applaud you, for taking up the fight, man, and bringing music like this. I think it's a time when the world, the country, really needs, you look around sometimes at everything that's going on in the world sometimes, and you just feel like there's a lot of lost people out there,
Yeah,
it's a scary place right now. It's a scary place when you're thinking about, people going into movie theaters or grocery stores or malls and opening fire on people and stuff. And kids bringing, my mom's a teacher, the stuff that they confiscate from kids in school, it's a pretty scary place. Do you feel that is there some kind of a goal that you have in your heart because of what you went through in your past? Do you have some kind of like a goal, some kind of like a crazy drive where like you feel like you have to like help people? Is this kind of like some kind of like a pay it forward because of things you've done in the past? Do you feel any kind of like guilt or burden, like where you feel like you must do this?
I wouldn't call it a guilt. I would call it a burden. And it's not so much that what I've done. I think it's more of what's been done for me that I have a burden.
Okay. I love the way you put that.
Yeah, I definitely have a burden to help people, and because I was the person that needed help, and I got help,
Yeah.
And God has blessed me with so much resource, man. And so my goal is to share that, and not be greedy with it, and help people that really, really need it, because I'm about it. I'm about that life.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, I applaud you so much, man. I love the album, man. I wish you guys continued success, man. I hope all the things that you guys want to achieve, you guys are able to do it. I appreciate you being so generous with your time, man, and coming on here and chatting it up with me a little bit, man. And, I think the audience will really like it. And, I hope they'll go check your music out, man. And, and really not just listen to the music, man, but, the people that need it, I really hope that they really, truly lock into your message, man, because I think it's an important time, for people to, if they have that platform, to try to use their message, as positively as possible. So I applaud you for it, sir. I really do.
Dude, thank you so much, man. I appreciate the love, bro. It's been great talking to you, homie.
Yeah, it's been great talking to you too, man. I had a blast, man, and let's stay in touch and we'll do it again sometime, man.
Let's do it, man. We'll see you soon, Doug.
All right, man. Take it easy, brother. Thank you so much, man.
Much love, homie.
All right, later. There you have it, man. Miggy Sanchez. Go check that band out, man. Guy not only plays percussion for legendary band ILL NINO, he's just started doing his own thing, Relent. If you like bands like Downset, Korn, POD, they've got a very hip-hop meets, crunchy metal sound. But most importantly, man, that guy's trying to reach the lost out there, man. He's doing his thing, man. He's out there, man. He's trying to reach people, man. And, everything I said on there is true. And I know we make a lot of light on this show, man. And, do a lot of jokey and, a lot of laughing on here, man. But, there are good people out there in the world, man, with a good message, man. And, they're out there trying to make a difference, man. So, give a band like that a chance, man. I applaud what they're doing, man. The name of the band, again, is Relent. The album is called Heavy, and boy, is it ever. And, I implore you guys, my Pod Scum audience, man, I know you'll do the right thing. Go check these guys out, man. Give them a listen, man. You can find them on all the streaming platforms. I found them on Apple Music, man. They're out there, man. They're out there wherever the hell, human beings are finding music. So, want to thank Miggy Sanchez for coming on Pod Scum, man. Wish him all the best, man. He's out there doing his thing, folks. Go help him out, man. Go help a brother out, man. So, till next time. I'll see you guys on Pod Scum, and remember to take it easy and keep it sleazy.